I'm so excited. I was sitting. I sit in the power. I was sitting in a little meditation before um, opening the beginning of this, and I was feeling the energy of the chat room before I even actually opened up. And then when I came in, it was like this continuation that I had to write it. And I mean, I always feel the energy of the chat room, but tonight felt extra like magnified for some reason. And so it made me a bit jittery. And so I really just had to ground myself, and jittery in a good way, but
Right, right.
it's such a wonderful thing. Thank you guys so much for being here, each
Oh,
and every one of you. And oh my gosh, look who I have here. I don't know if it's
hello.
this way or this way. Which way do I do? This way.
Over here.
Kim, thank you so much. I had the pleasure of being on your channel with you, and I have to say, um, now I can never say it's my favorite because we might, but it was my favorite. Your energy is so calming, and I feel like I hear that about myself a lot most of the time. Um, and so perhaps I saw aspects of myself in you, but your energy is just so beautiful and
Oh,
non-confrontational. And I don't know why I'm saying that, but just so open. And in that, I can see why you have so many people that are following you and just a part of it, because one thing that I was left with from my conversation with you is that you're so relatable. And that's really a
no.
beautiful gift in your offering. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and say thank you. And thank you for being here.
Oh, well, thank you. And I was mesmerized by your opener.
Oh, I know.
It's a lot to live up to.
Well, here's the thing. It gets a lot of positive
It's
feedback, but then
amazing.
there's some people that really do that comparison thing in it.
Oh,
And it's totally fine. Sometimes things can look similar, but they can be so different and feel so different for people. So in that,
right.
thank you. I think it's great. I love the
Yeah,
music.
it's
It
amazing.
it feels good to me.
I have
And
to up my
thank
game, I guess.
Oh goodness.
I
Well,
just pop on and say hi.
for the record, I didn't do it, Kim. I could not do that
Okay.
kind of stuff. I have a hard
Yeah.
enough time like going live.
Mhm.
And I know I've told this story before, but 22 minutes in with Debbie, Freebird Spirit, I realized that we weren't live.
Oh
So
no. Oh no.
yeah, totally. And it had started out with questions, and we were just getting right into it, and we were interacting with the chat. And then we were kind of like both aware, but we both didn't say anything. And then we were finally like, why is no one like, we were bringing people's questions up in relation to what
Right.
we were talking about, and there was no interaction. Anyways,
Oh my gosh, that is
my point
hilarious.
is going live sometimes is hard enough for me. So anyways, thank you for being
That's
here.
funny.
We are going to do some questions, some personal readings, kind of halfway. You guys know that I like to get to know my guests when they come on my channel the first time. And so, with that, I'm curious how you got into the world of, and let me see, Intuitive You.
Mhm.
Is that the name of your station?
Yeah, my
Station, your
station, yes.
channel? I love that. Tell us about it, how that came to be.
Well, people that know me will have heard this story many times, but people that don't will might be interested. But I basically, well, starting the channel, um, I was getting, because I read on politics, a lot of politics, and partly it's just because I love politics. I've been interested in politics since the early 90s, so I've just been
Mm,
it's just kind of one of my interests. But I kept getting this message after Trump got in that I kept getting this image of King Kong falling from um, the Empire State Building,
mm,
the old version, the 1930s version or whatever, falling from the Empire State Building, and my guides, particularly at the beginning, speak to me a lot in movies and TV references because my
Mm,
catalog is so large of those things. That's why I love movies and television. But it gave me a really quick way to put things in context, because I think sometimes some people don't realize that as a reader, you don't have context for anything, right? You just
mm,
get messages, and that's why you need the person you're reading for to kind of put the context there, because you don't have any. And it was a really smart way of my guides being able to give me something and I could get the context right away. So
mm,
in that scene, King Kong is holding on to the Empire State Building, everything's coming at him, and he falls eventually. And I just felt like that's what was going to happen to Trump. I knew it was exciting. When I would ask what's going to happen with Trump, that's the image I would get. So I knew a lot of things would come at him at once. It wouldn't be one thing to take him down, it would be a bunch of things. I knew
mm,
he would go down angry. I knew he would try to hang on with it told me a lot. And so, and I started getting kind of general messages about politics really frequently. And when I would ask and I would get answers. And my sister is an excellent tarot card reader, and I asked her if she would start a channel because I really thought people need to know it's going to be okay,
mhm,
that we would survive this and it would be okay. But I felt like they were going to need to know this. Little did I know what was coming, right? It was
mm,
such a roller coaster. And we did help each other through, the channel, and people on other channels we help each other through. We're still helping each other through this. But my sister was like, no, there's no way in hell I'm going on YouTube. There's no way in hell. So I kept getting this and I kept getting this feeling like, and then they gave me the name of the channel, and they're
oh,
like, this is what you need to do. And so I had my sister do a reading, and the cards were just phenomenal. So she's like,
wow.
just try it, just do it maybe once. So I said, I'll do it. And I'll do it for a month. And if I get about 100 subscribers, that'll be my sign to keep going.
Mm,
And then I did, and then I did. So uh, I just kept going with it, and it just kind of evolved, and it evolved into doing personal readings and doing, I can't, it seems so crazy to me, but it just kind of put my life in a completely different direction than I was in, out of the blue. But it was a complete leap of faith as well.
mm,
I think, I mean, you've probably found this too, that when the more you can just trust your spirit
yeah.
guides and just trust what's going on, the easier it is. I mean, you really are guided. So um, your guides want to guide you. They want to help you, and it's up to us to just go with it,
Mhm.
Um, but it was a complete leap of faith, and it was the scariest thing I've ever done. It really was. It was so scary to do it. Uh, but yeah, that's basically it.
Wow.
That's how the channel started.
And I love that because I think people can relate to like being in that upset or being in the grief or being in situations that it's like we want the complete opposite of what's actually happening in the moment. And being in that place of trust and feeling that call and then kind of working through that in the reflection, it's probably given you some of the greatest gifts. You know what I mean? Like the people that you meet, the connections, the unveiling of what's there sometimes comes from that really shitty stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's such a gift sometimes, and knowing that I liked it because you pointed out about being in the conversation and asking your guides like for this and that. That's the other part of it, is that
Right.
we're fully responsible and we're with choice to be in that conversation or not. We can just sit there and wait for everything to come to us, and maybe it looks like that for some people. But I know myself, my own participation in it is instrumental. So
Yeah, it's a leap of faith, and I always think of,
mm,
especially when you talk about things like manifesting and stuff like that, it isn't, you're not just handing over, um you're not just handing things over to your guides or to the universe. Oh, the universe will work it out. You meet them
mhm.
halfway,
Yeah.
and that leap of faith that I took doing the channel, but that people take when they you know want to try a new job or whatever, you do sometimes have to take that leap of faith to let the universe know I'm ready.
Mm.
Um, it requires that sometimes. And I think it's scary to do. It's scary,
Mhm.
especially if it's something new. It's scary, but I think that it's sometimes required so that your guides know I'm serious about this. I'm ready. It's time. And they will be there to meet you halfway. They really will.
Mm. So before the YouTube channel, were you doing readings? Were you doing, what did that look like? Oh, you weren't.
I did it for I would do my, certain members of my family would always ask me for readings. And but I was not I really just I would get messages about myself and my life and stuff, but I didn't um have any uh it wasn't even on my lexicon at all. I did not think about
Mm.
it. And then about, I don't know, 6 months into the channel, people kept asking, do you do private readings? Do you do private readings? I'm like, do I? I don't know if
Oh.
I do. I could try it. So I did. If you can imagine this, Kevin. So I went on and just said, because I wasn't sure. And so I said, I will do free email readings.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
you can imagine. I mean, I love free stuff. Everybody loves free stuff. So I
You're
got
probably still
so,
answering them.
so it did. It took me months to answer.
Yeah.
And then I talked to Linda G, and she's like, you have to charge something, Kim. You have to.
Mm.
Other, it's going to drain you. You will not be able to do this. And so then I did like a little donation thing, and it just kind of, I really had to feel my way about
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff. And I really, really depended on my guides to let me know, should I do this? Is this a good direction to go? Should I do this? Is this a good direction to go? And there have been some bumps along the way. Um, but that's the other thing I learned is that when there's a bump in the road, or when
Mhm.
there's something that's like, oh, this is a little bit harder than I thought, it doesn't mean it's wrong. Because I think
Mm.
sometimes people think that as long as things are humming along and going really good, I'm on track or whatever. No, you hit those little bumps and stuff, and sometimes it's to test your resolve. How
Mhm.
much do I want this? So I did hit some little bumps along the way, but um, I would check in, and if I felt like it was right, even though I was hitting some bumps, I would just keep going with it.
Mhm.
A lot of life lessons I've learned through doing the channel, you know, um, just practical things that I think I didn't know before, but now when you connect so often with your guides, because
Mhm.
if you read and you read every day, you connect all the time. You just learn so much. I'm always in learning mode because
Mm.
you just do. It keeps you humble too, to stay in learning mode and be constantly learning. I learned something from the people that I read for, or I do mentoring sessions now instead of readings, but I learn something every single time. And the more I think you can just keep learning, the more you'll grow, the better it will be. Um, yeah,
I
yeah.
love
So
that. I love that because I mean, I know this as a knowing, beyond the belief is that when we're in service, the exchange, there's a gift for both of us in that, and that we're never excluded from like what's going to show up. So I love that, being open to, um, the learning and the teachings that come through these exchanges that are, also for us. I love that.
yeah.
I'm curious about when you started to recognize, because you were talking about family asking you for readings, um, and it sounds like your guides, your team so intimately. I'm curious when you started to recognize, your awakened abilities, your gifts. When did that, occur for you?
Well, so it's interesting because I grew up in the Mormon church,
Oh, okay.
and so I grew up Mormon, and um, I got messages all the time, but I put different language to it. So instead
Mhm.
of, my guides, I would say the Holy Ghost or God or Jesus. But it was the same kind of, it's all coming from the same place. It's just
Mhm.
that source connection, and then and being able to connect that way. So I was always very um connected that way, at first with kind of through religion, And then in 2008, I left the church. They got very involved in the gay marriage thing. And
Mm.
I they were against it, and they worked to stop it, actively worked to try and stop it. And I left the church because of that, and um, mainly because I felt like I could find another way to worship or to
Mm.
be, to be in
Mhm.
that that vein, but I couldn't find a way in my heart to make anything like that okay. And I really couldn't be a part of anything that was a part of something like that, of such,
Mhm.
to me it was bigotry, hate. I didn't like it. So I left, and it was hard to do because I'd been in it since I was a kid, and you get very used to things. But when I left, I that is really when everything opened up, ironically,
Wow.
because I
Mm.
was all through church, I was always looking for that really, really deep connection to spirit, and it actually came when I left.
Oh,
And
wow.
everybody's wherever they are, that I have no, when people are in religions and things, it's totally fine. That's where they are. But for me, when I left is when everything cracked open. And one of the one one of the biggest epiphanies that I had, that I'm like, I'm receiving messages, was when my dad, he uh he passed away from lung cancer. But
Mm.
I was looking at I was looking out the window at him, and he was working on our yard. We had just bought this. We're in the condo I'm in now. But he was working on our yard, putting in a sprinkler system, and he was having trouble figuring out the whole layout. And he was an engineer, so he was very, very bright. And I was kind of watching him, and all of a sudden I heard, um, he won't be here next summer. And
Oh.
it was summertime, and I heard it clear as a bell. And
Mm.
I thought, what an awful thing to think. Why would I think that? What in the world? And I kept hearing it. And that was the first time, I think, that I felt like I realized, when because he passed away he was diagnosed in that fall, and he was gone by that winter.
Oh,
So it was
wow.
literally months. And I went back, and I remembered that, and I thought they were letting me know, not to scare me or freak me out or anything. They were letting me know because after I got that message, every time I was with him, I was in the moment. I was completely
Oh.
present, because I thought, um, yeah, so it made me be completely present with him and completely in the moment, so that I wouldn't waste a minute. Um, and but that's the first time I can remember getting a message and knowing it was from my guides. They were letting me know. Um, and it was looking back on it in the
Mm.
moment. I just knew this was a weird thing. Why would I ever think that? What's wrong with me? Because it does a lot of people don't know. It feels like you, when you get messages, it's your mind's ear, it's your mind's eye, so it feels like you. But it was, and it's a trademark of my guides still, that they'll say something over and over and over again, and that's the way I know this is a message. This is a message. Or because I'm just I'm dense. They need to keep knocking on the door. But that was the thing, the kind of catalyst for realizing, oh, these are messages. I'm getting something that's trying to help me, trying to tell me. And yeah. Another huge breakthrough was when I went to a silent retreat and started to meditate.
Mm.
That was another thing that was like, that sent my abilities to another level. Yeah, that's
I
basically
love it.
it.
So many questions, and some you're answering. I love it how that happens.
I know.
It's so great. Did you have anyone like in your family other than I think you mentioned your sister reading the tarot. Was there anyone else that was, and like you said, maybe in the languaging of it, calling it something different, but in the demonstration of these sorts of things? Or
Yeah,
I'm curious.
yeah, definitely. So it's funny because my great grandmother read tea leaves,
Oh.
and I didn't know this until it just came out. We started to talk about these things, but on the Mormon side of the family,
Mhm.
all of those women are empaths.
Oh.
They get messages. My mom has passed, but and her sisters have also passed, but they were twins. And so they would have dreams, like dreams that would be the same as each other, that would tell the
Mm.
future. My mom had very, very intuitive. Um, she talked a lot about one time when she had, and this is just an example, but when
Mhm. Thank you.
she was sitting just sitting there, and every time she closed her eyes, she saw herself packing for a funeral, and she knew she was packing, and she knew she was packing for a funeral. And very shortly after, her father died suddenly of
Mm.
a heart attack, and she was packing to go to a funeral, and that vision came back to her, like, oh, I recognize this, like deja vu. But they had all kinds of things like that, but that whole side of the family are empaths. And but because they're in the Mormon church, and the Mormon church is very big on kind of covering up feelings. They're kind of like, I don't know if you saw the Book of Mormon, the musical,
Mhm. Yeah.
but there's a whole song about turn it off like a light switch, because turn off your feelings, just be happy, just put a smile on your face. And especially women in the church. And if you're an empath, you know what that does, right? It turns everything off.
Mhm.
It shuts everything down. And so yeah, but that's in hindsight. At the time, of course, I didn't know. I'm an empath. That's my first and foremost, definitely, because and I know you're an empath too, Kevin, but
Mhm.
when you're an empath and you grew up being an empath, and you're just really, really sensitive kid, you think everybody, you don't know why, you don't think of it as being special. It's just who you are. And being an empath is just who I am. I've
Mm.
always been like that. Always.
Which makes sense by, leaving the church, if you will, why things expanded in such a way, being open to that feeling component of it, which is kind of everything.
Yep.
And in that, I'm curious if this question just kind of came from that is, because you were saying the languaging is different, and you might have languaged it as the Holy Ghost, I think you said.
Hmm.
And, now you might call it a guide. I'm curious, does it feel the same as it did then? Do you know what I'm trying to say? I don't know if I'm saying it in
Yeah.
the
Well,
right
no, that's a really
way.
good question. And I think that, I mean, I think it does feel different. And the reason
Mhm.
I think that it does is because there's no filter anymore. It's
Mm.
there's something that has opened up, and I'm directly talking to spirit in a way I didn't feel like I could. I didn't feel worthy to do that when I was in the Mormon church. So I think there was always that little bit of blocking from me. Um, and then once I kind of got out from under that kind of um, limiting practices and thoughts that kind of church can put on you. There's only one way of doing this. There's only one way of thinking about
Mm.
this. This is the rules, all the rules and stuff, and if you need to obey the rules, or you're not worthy, or you're not gonna, this is the way I interpreted it. It's not
Mhm.
necessarily how they put it, but and then the fear factor as well. This stuff is the work of the devil. It's not, so there's all these like things, filters kind of being put in front of my connection with spirit, that I could still reach through it, but to me, it took a lot more effort, and it seemed like I was going through layers, rather than now, where I just feel like I'm right there. I can reach
Mhm.
right through, and there I am. So yeah, so it does feel different. And I think it feels much more natural, and more like I did as a kid.
Right.
I think that, when you unlearn all this stuff by either getting involved in a religion that's not accepting of it, or family can shut you down, or those everybody has different ways of shutting those things off. But yeah, I feel like more like I did when I was really little, and
Mm.
had, you know, a more clear connection my empath abilities
Right.
and so yeah,
Um,
it's just a more pure connection, I guess is my answer.
And so in that, do you recognize, because there's ways that it has clearly in your sharing enhanced your life with some of the teachings that you talked about, what it's provided you. Do you also recognize the duality in that where it's been challenging to have these abilities?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the biggest things I think for me, because everybody's ego takes a different form,
Mm,
right? Some people, it's like, I'm the best, and I can tell the future now, and I am so
mhm,
amazing. And it can take that form. The
mhm.
form of my ego is imposter syndrome
Oh,
and um, scared of letting people down. Again, being an empath and being raised in the Mormon church, I definitely am a people pleaser. I
mm,
like to see people happy, and so uh, I I don't want to let people down. And
mm,
so but I do know those things are my ego problems. So I'm constantly working at them and trying to and being aware of them. Um, and so those ways that it can trigger my ego in those ways, that's probably the biggest uh, difficulty or challenge with abilities. What are yours? Do you have what kind of
Well,
your challenges?
it's interesting, and I'm not just saying this because you said it, but disappointing other people, people that know me, and I've said that before, is my number one. If I've disappointed someone or let them down, it hits me in a way that it just brings me to my knees. And so I needed to actually hear that. So thank you for your share in the part about the ego in that. And
Yeah,
yeah, where I can be responsible. Um, I would say that's a big one, and I bet you with a lot of the empaths that are here, that
yeah,
disappointing other people because we are so deeply like I hear people say sometimes like, "Oh, I don't care about that." It's like, no, I care so deeply about it that I sometimes
mhm.
pretend to tell myself I don't care about that. But in the truth
Right.
of it, right, right. Yeah, that little protection mechanism. But yeah, that deep disappointment. And I do better. I'm okay when people disappoint me. I'm fine with that in a moment or two. But when I disappoint somebody else, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
So
I'm the
yeah,
same. I'm very forgiving. So I don't know why I wouldn't think other people would be too,
right.
but I and they are. I mean, people are so nice and so wonderful. And I'm sure you've learned, through with your audience and through your work that people are amazing. They really, really
Mhm,
are. They're truly amazing. Um, so it really is such an honor to be able to help in any way. But yeah, I'm glad you said that too, because those are
mhm.
mine, and I'm, you know,
Yeah.
always working on it.
You talked about your relationship with your guides, and so it was that something that was natural, that getting to know them, how you identify with them, um, kind of. I'm curious about that process, and then if you have any tips for people that are looking to develop that relationship with their guides, what you would say to that.
Sure. So, with my guides, that was, and I think unless it comes crashing through, I mean, some people it's just, they have this huge epiphany and their lives completely different after that. For me, it was definitely a process. It took
Mhm,
time, and a lot of it was on my part. I needed to trust. I needed to trust what I was getting, trust them, um,
mhm,
uh, realize that they were always in my corner
mhm,
even when I needed to learn something or something wasn't easy. It doesn't mean that your guides are ignoring you or turning away from you. It means that you have to go through a step, but they're always there. Um, and I think so, but a lot of it, to be honest, was on my part.
Mm.
they've always been there. They've always been kind of around and waiting and sending me messages. And it was on my part to be like, oh, that's a message, you know, uh, get out of my own way. I mean, I think that's so often what it is, because our guys are just there. They're just going to be
Mm.
there as us. We would turn away from them, or or get involved in all the drama of the 3D. We're the ones that do that. And I think once we trust, open up, and just accept that we have partners in this, that's everything. They're just
I
doing
love
what they do.
I love that, because that's just, I don't, it makes me think about the judgment, or I'm going to say expectation or request, however we put it out. But it's like, sometimes it's like the little subtle signs that are clearly signs, we will not receive them the same way as something that's like the 10 out of 10s. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So it's like, in that we get into this, well, like, we can dismiss it. I know I have, where I'm like, was that really a sign? No, I like, give me something more profound, or bigger, if you will. So just being in that trust,
Exactly.
and then the openness, and then the receiving part of it, I think is really valuable. Um,
Yeah. And I
so I know,
couldn't remember the second part of your question. What was the other part?
any tips for people looking to deepen their relationship with their guides, their team, what that would be?
Yeah. Um, it kind of depends on where your dominant ability lies, right?
Mm.
If you think you might be an empath, try to feel your guides. Ask them to come close to you and
Mm.
and to be with you, sit next to you, and try to feel what are you feeling? What are you feeling in your heart? What are you feeling um, in your emotions? What do you feel? So often you'll just feel love or
Mm.
peace, that peaceful presence or that loving presence. If you're more of a visualizer, visualize them and use your imagination. That's the other thing, is that I don't think people, maybe here they realize it, but I don't think a lot of people realize that your guides use your imagination and they use
Mhm.
your memory bank to get messages to you. So, and people think, oh, well, if I'm just imagining it, it's like, no, they're using your imagination. So if you're a willing participant, just imagine, what do you think
Mhm.
they look like? What do you think their names are? 9 times out of 10, you're just going to be right, because
Mhm.
they've been around forever. And if
Mhm.
you just trust yourself, trust that knowing. Um, I think I just got chills with that. They're telling
Mhm.
that's the way of being, that whenever I get chills, it's like you're spot on, or you're saying that correctly. So yeah, that's what they want people to know. Whatever you feel like, oh, I'm kind of a natural feeler, I'm very emotional or whatever. I just know stuff for some reason. I just know. Well, tell your guides to come and sit with you and use that gift of knowing to know things about them. What do they feel like to you? Who do you think they are?
Mhm.
Again, 9 times out of 10, you are probably right. You're probably right. So often I will have a reading where I'll say, because in my mentoring, that's what I do mostly, is talk to guides and talk to their guides. And so often I'll say, there's a great grandmother here that and I'll explain the personality. Whatever. Oh, I always thought my grandmother was one of my guides. I can't tell you
Uh,
how many times that's happened, where people, they,
mm.
they already know. Um, yeah, so I just say, trust yourself. Don't worry about, should I, am I thinking it, or they use your imagination. So use your imagination. Who do you think they are?
Yeah,
You know?
I love
Um,
that.
at least
S
that's my, suggestion. And yeah, most
I
of the
love
time you are
that.
going to be correct.
I love that. I'd never heard it in that way, of connecting it to, like, the dominant ability, and that's just it. It's like, I think that's so brilliant. I think that's really brilliant.
Thank you.
Speaking about yeah, you're so brilliant. Speaking about the trust, and I know you shared a couple of things, but if you could share an experience that profoundly deepened your trust with spirit. So maybe that came from a reading, maybe it was from, I don't know if you've ever sat in a seance, or whatever that looks like. If you could share something that comes to mind.
So yeah. And this is again one of those things where you're like you're in learning mode all the time, right? So
Mm.
I had I don't want to make this a long story. So I had an aunt that I helped to take care of when she was in hospice. Her her sons, my cousins, lived out of state, and so I kind of just took on the responsibility of helping her until it got to the point where I felt like they needed to come out. So when she was at the end of hospice, her um, her ending was so long and drawn out and painful and difficult. And I kept in those moments, I kept saying, and this was before I kind of was doing the channel or anything like that. And I knew that she had the choice to go, and we kept telling her it's okay to go, it's okay to go, go find your mom and dad, whatever. And she just hung on and hung on and hung on. It was so difficult. And I could not understand it. I was just like, why would someone have to suffer this much? Why? It was so horrible. And I felt like at some point I would get an answer to that. But flash forward a few years, and I'm giving a reading, and this woman was asking about her mother who had passed away, and she was the same situation. She had hung on and hung on and hung on, and she said it was so awful. I had PTSD after it. It was so terrible. And in comes this message of your mother wanted to one of her one of the things she wanted to know all about was the physical body and
Mhm.
how the physical body shuts down. So part of her plan for herself was to be able to feel every single part of the death process.
Oh,
So it
wow.
was so slow,
Wow.
but it was something she wanted to experience, and something you can only experience here. And I all of a sudden made the connection. My guides were giving me the answer to what happened with my aunt. I'm getting chills again now telling
Mhm.
this, because my aunt was a nursing teacher.
Oh,
She
wow.
was absolutely obsessed with the physical body. And I got my answer in that reading. And so that was a real trust builder, because they gave me an answer. It was
Thank
years
you.
later, but they gave me an answer. And so when I had that experience, I knew that if I asked, I would receive, even if
Mm.
it's later on. Your guides, and I'll tell everybody here, when you ask a question and you ask a question with sincerity and really, really wanting to know, your guides are going to answer you.
Mhm.
Whether it's now or later, they're going to answer you.
Mhm.
And it was really one of those moments where it's like, they really were listening. They answered me in the time that was appropriate,
Yeah.
because I had a lot to learn and a lot to understand before I would
Mhm.
understand that answer. If they had told me that years before, there's no way I
Mhm.
would have understood that. I'd be like, what? Why would somebody, but in that moment it made perfect sense to me. And yeah, it was one of those things it just grew my trust in my guides so much. And I understood them in a way I didn't before that, that we get the answers and things when the time is right. And we do need to
Mhm.
trust our guides to know that,
Yeah.
um, you know,
Their ability and that assessment of the right timing, if you will, is always so perfect. And I encourage people to be in that surrender of that time frame, because that whether it be the emotional stability or just the whatever the reason is, we get the information in that moment, and then on that, whatever that looks like. we always get what we're able to handle, if you will. And in it,
Yeah.
it just, what also was there in that, Kim, was not only your trust in them, but the trust in yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it's always that twofold where it's like, yes, there's that, I don't want to say external, but the trust in that, but also mirroring back to yourself is what I'm hearing in that. So, and that was
Yeah.
the next question, how grief has, so you're just doing this so
Yeah.
beautifully. So wonderful. Just one or two more questions and then we'll go into, and thanks everybody for being here. This is so wonderful. I think Kim and I could talk for like a few hours.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Linda, thank you so much for your donation. Who or what inspires you?
I mean, there's loads of things that inspire me, but I think I mean, when it comes to this stuff, the people in the chat, the people that come and take our classes, that inspires me because I know that to do this work, it really is it's a really brave thing to do in in this crazy world of art. And also, you know, you set yourself up, you know, we're actually in a much more enlightened place now than we ever have been when it comes to this stuff. I mean, it's just, there are just more of us on the planet here that know who and what we really are. So we're aware, and so there's just more of us here. So it's getting so much better, but it takes a lot of courage to step out and start working on your abilities diligently and starting to do exactly what we're talking about. Do that kind of work where you go in and you start to break down these things that you've had that were blocking you. You're being able to trust, or being able to believe in yourself, or believe in something bigger than you, or whatever it is. It takes a lot of courage to do this stuff and to step out there and say, this is what I am now, or I'm really going to go for this. And so when I do, Debbie and I teach together, and when and I do mentoring sessions on my own, but that is what truly inspires me, is to see that amazement that people have in themselves when they get it, or when they've read and they got it right, or I just love that process. I love teaching, and I love seeing people be amazed at themselves, and that truly, truly inspires me. It validates, it just validates that we're all here, meant to be doing this, meant to be helping each other do it, and get in there and start doing the light working, the light working of the light workers. It's amazing. People are amazing. They really, really are. I'm so blessed to be able to come across the people that I do in my work, teaching and doing mentoring. But that is truly what inspires me, and it's why I keep doing it. What about you?
I mean, I love that. I think I'm just echoing everything that you say. But it's so true. It's so true because I don't know about you, and maybe some people can relate to this, that this can be a really lonely, insecure, unsettling adventure. And that when it's not is when you open up and you reach out to other people and you're in the exchange of the abilities. That's, to me, where the gift lies in it. So the community part of it is really the anchor and the light and the inspiration and all of it, because there's that competitive little where there's the rule book and the the competitive kind of, and the ego, I think, lives in that. And none of us are separate from it, but we can, I think, when we come together, and Spirit says that if it's not every single reading, it's just like, I mean, I hear it time and time again, where they want us to be in the celebration of each other, and to be in the community, and to be like, in this demonstration and the sharing. And so I mean, it goes without saying, I mean, this community literally has saved us in ways. And so for that, I find it so inspiring. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I think people need to understand, to know that it can be very lonely. It can be
Mhm.
very, it can be very, you can feel very isolated. And I think what these communities have done, it's just really made everybody feel like they are just not alone. They're not
Mm.
alone, and wanting to um to be better in connecting with spirit and understanding it and understanding themselves, and yeah, it's really, I can't, and it's so obvious. I mean, now it's so obvious that it's like, of course we were supposed to connect all of these communities together and make
Mhm.
a bigger community, and of course we were, but um but I'm sure when you started your channel, maybe you did because you collaborated a lot, but I didn't even think
I
of
did.
that kind of thing when I started it. I was just like, I think it was Linda actually. I did one of my first like collaborations, and because I've known her for years. She used to read for Cassiness when Cassie was little and stuff.
Oh,
So I've known her. We live right by Benicia, so we would see her all the time. But I felt like I was just kind of like, this is so cool. This is the coolest thing. And then more collaborations and more collaborations. Everybody's collaborating. It's again, it's like, of course, this is the way it was supposed to be. But who would ever, have thought that at the very beginning? It's, because
yeah.
another thing is too, could people put their egos aside enough to kind of open their audience up to somebody else that they might like too? I mean, you know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
it's such a it, again, very inspiring to see everybody put their egos aside for the greater good. It's
Right.
beautiful. It's beautiful the way these
Well, like,
communities all come together.
it makes me go back to where you were even saying about the grandmother, being someone's guide. And in that, I've even heard, some people that are like, oh, no, your loved ones can't be your guides, or this or that. So in the kind of parameters, it's like, that's the one thing that I find, that I guess in a little deeper into the loneliness of what I felt, through this. And it's just been moments. The majority of it is, because I've surrounded myself with so many people in the community,
Right.
literally in my town, and the ripple effect of that, and this, and being in the conversation, including the conversation part of it in all aspects of my life, where no longer is it like I can only talk about this with these people. It's like, I've learned, if people are uncomfortable or don't want to talk about it, I ain't going to force the issue, but in
Right.
it,
Right.
just weaving it into the everydayness, so it's less kind of separate. And I was going somewhere with that. Oh, kind of getting off track of, what felt right for me. And in that moment, I go back onto, um, there's one, and I think we're all our own best teacher in aspects. And then we need to have people that are, reminding us and teaching us and letting us see and learn even in ways that we can't even imagine. And
Right.
in it, it's, I was going somewhere with this, in that, oh, in it, trying to duplicate everybody else, that got really lonely for me. And so trying to be like, this one or that one, and not really staying true to how it was for me and how that was unfolding,
Mhm.
was something that now in reflection I go, oh, okay, it took me into that loneliness even more. So, um,
Right.
it's interesting how things unfold, and then in the reflection of it, how we kind of go, Oh, that's interesting. And what stands out in it, and this is something that you're such an advocate for, even in this, short time in your sharing, is that we have choice around it all. And sometimes
Right.
it can look really difficult, or it can, the pendulum can be on this side. But that in any given moment, we do have that ability to be in choice. And I think that's a really powerful place to be, and a good reminder. So,
Right.
mhm.
And that, that's something that comes up a lot when we're talking about like politics and democracy and things like that. That's our natural state, is
Mm,
being free to choose,
yeah,
freedom to choose. It's why we're here. It's why we came here. So I always let people know that that's what we're evolving to: freedom of choice for everybody. Joy, freedom, love. That's our natural state.
yeah.
So that's always what we're going to be evolving towards. And there's going to be ugly stuff and that whatever, and people that resist and whatever, but in the end, that's where we are going. So just
I
a matter
love
of
it.
time.
I'm going to start to take some questions. If you could just share what you have going on your channel, and then if there's any more workshops this year. I'm not sure if you have.
Yeah, we're just finishing up our last class for this year, but Debbie and I will have more classes next year. And I don't have any mentoring appointments available, but I do have a waiting list. So if you want to get on the waiting list, you're more than welcome to. Just send me an email, or you can go to intuitiveview.com, and there's everything about. I have recorded classes. You can get recorded classes. I have a bunch of those. I just added 2 more like e-courses. One's on the dowsing rods, and one is on
Wow.
connecting with orbs and learning to communicate with orbs. Um, so yeah, I had that. And then tonight I'm doing Thursday Night Live on my channel. That's what we just do, politics and current events. So it's live at
Wow.
6:30 Pacific. So that is
Busy,
what's up.
busy. So and I believe I put I don't know if I put your website, but I will put it after the show. Your channel is on there, and I'm sure your website is on your channel as well, but I will add
Yeah, yeah.
that to the
Yeah. Oh, and I have my
description.
club too. I've got the club that I have.
Oh,
We have a book club in there, and I do mini readings in there. I don't really do personal mini readings on my big channel, but I do in the club. So if you're interested in that, you can do that. I'm
I
changing
love
it
it.
a lot in January. I'm going to do some changes, but it'll still be around. So that's
Beautiful.
all.
So what a treat. We're doing personal readings today. This is
Yay!
a real big treat. And I know lots of people just in the community have shared some of the takeaways and their experiences in the classes that you offer. I mean, top
Oh,
notch,
good. I'm
such
so
good stuff.
glad. So
So
glad.
good. Well,
Thank you.
people don't hold back. They'll tell you.
Oh,
You
yes, they
know,
will.
I love that, honestly. And yeah, all that I have heard has definitely been applause
Oh,
and
good. Oh,
such
thank you.
professional. So
I
yes.
love that. Thank you.
And Linda and Cheryl, thank you so much for your donation. And Christy, you as well. Thank you kindly. All righty. All these little guys here. And just so that people know, I don't follow necessarily in the order of what the questions come in. And we probably have more questions than we'll ever get to, but you never know. Maybe Kim will agree to come back and do another show where we don't do all the chit chat and we
Yeah,
do some
just
ratings. We'll see. There we go. Oh, did she freeze? Did you freeze? I think she froze.
I did. I no, I
Oh,
keep freezing. I don't know why I keep freezing. I'm so sorry.
no, it's okay.
If I get, I may go out and come back in, but I won't just yeah,
No
I'll do the
worries.
best I can. My internet connection is just really weird today, so sorry about that.
That's the first time I noticed it.
Yeah.
It's all good. All right. So we will close the questions. If a moderator could put that in the chat, that would be so helpful. Just that we're just being mindful of the time. Kim, you do have another show. It's at 6:30 tonight on your
Uh-huh.
channel.
Yeah,
Perfect.
it's 6:30 Pacific. So
wonderful. All righty. I'm going to go with this one here. I didn't fully read it. I seem to have gotten a long and powerful download from my deceased friend, Michael. Wow. Question. Was it a breakthrough in our efforts to communicate or my own fantasy? I think Kim answered this already. It's the imagination, and we question ourselves in that validity, if you will. And so for you just to externally get that validation, I got a new deck, and I'm a little bit obsessed with ravens and crows.
wow.
And I got a new deck called the Urban Crow Oracle. So
Wow.
I'm
How
going to play around
cool.
with that one. But let's see what comes through for you. I'm hearing yes. It was definitely a communication. I also am hearing that it was not the first time. So yeah, let's see what comes through. Michael. And if you want, you can go ahead, or I can go first, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting pretty much the same what you just said. And also, Denise, that you need to yeah, I mean, I say this all the time, but you do need to trust yourself. You need to trust it. It's, it's nice to get validation. It's always just nice to hear someone else say, yeah, that was right. But I just think you need to trust yourself. You really do need to trust yourself because you're communicating, you're getting it. It's when you are the vehicle, it's your mind's ear, your mind's eye, your feelings. It you know I think we you question yourself all the time. Am I crazy? What's going on here? Is this really me? Is this really them? Try if you can just to stop. Just pretend that you believe every single thing you're getting. Pretend that it is spot on every single time. Just pretend. Fake it till you make it, because honestly, you just need to get out of your own way and just trust. What do you think?
I love that. I pulled 2 cards, and it's so perfect. So, and these are the first times that I'm using these cards. I just got them today. So it's the trickery card, and it feels so perfect. And on the heels of the trickery is the change. And so as I feel into that, Denise, it's that place beyond the belief. It's that knowing that is so deep that we question it, because it's like in the humanness, that's what we do. And so in it just feels like that trickery, or those kind of thoughts of that second guessing, they can always be there. But in this moment, with the depth of that communication that you had, this is igniting that little bit of change within the trust. So it's a full body yes. That was a very deep and powerful communication. And another kind of brings me to the question about what I asked him about an experience that deepened that trust with spirit. They're saying that that's one of these moments for you. So
Oh, nice.
it's wonderful. So be in that. And I feel like, again, it's not the first time, and it won't be the last time that you are in
Yeah.
that communication. So wonderful. I just want to acknowledge, thank you. Angel Hall, thank you so much for your donation. And I saw someone else, Lee, thank you so much. That's so kind of you. It's Patricia's birthday. And so Craig is saying a card for Patricia. It's her birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Absolutely.
birthday. Absolutely. Okay. Patricia. Oh, it's the gifts card. I
Oh,
mean, it's so
happy.
perfect. Oh, and as I feel into this, so it's about the signs that they're saying. And crows will actually do that where they will bring you things. And so there feels like okay, there's a male energy that is bringing you the signs. And so my eye was drawn to the black feather, which I don't see as much. Automatically when I see feather, it's usually white, but in this it's the black feather. And I don't know if it's in here. It's not, unless I'm, oh yeah, it is, I think. Sorry. Glasses. A key. So they're showing me a key. And so it's like, I'm remembered, and I know it was quite some time ago, about you and moving. And so this key feels like that is now kind of, it feels a little bit out. And maybe I'm totally getting this wrong. Maybe it's a different Patricia, but there's something about the key to moving. So,
Okay. So this is weird because what I was going to say before you had said that was that this year for her, this birthday year, is going to be about unlocking potential. And so then you said something about the key. So I'm like, okay, that is completely validated. So yeah, yeah.
I love that. Happy birthday to
Yeah,
you.
happy birthday.
That's so wonderful. I hope I got the right Patricia. I know that's that was pretty bold, but that's the energy that I was feeling from the
Yeah,
name. So there we go. All right.
yeah,
So we are
it's great.
that one off. I have not
Yeah,
seen this name
and
before.
in reading, I was going to say too that with going back to Denise and with readings in general is that um the more you can move into that place of just surrender, just go with it, just believe it, just trust it. That is when I am completely in flow. And you probably notice that too with readings when you just are just I'm just going to go with whatever. I'm just going to say what, I'm just going to say exactly what I get. When you get into that and you're able to be there in a reading or just with yourself when you're trying to get answers, when you can just, I'm just going to go with it. Completely surrender to it. I'm just going to take what comes to me, whatever comes into my mind. When you get in that place, that's when you have, at least for me, the best readings, the best, and the easiest readings too. I don't know why we make it so hard on ourselves sometimes. You know, it's like
We
it's
try
so
to get in there and
easy.
interpret, and it's
Yeah,
like, Kevin, get out of the way,
yeah,
just deeply surrendering. And that takes something, because I mean, we need our ego in the aspect of being able to show up when we're being seen in that capacity. So that's actually helpful where it assists us. Where it gets in the way is where we start second guessing and we go,
yes,
was that a message? Was this what I was getting? And then all of that humanness that takes us out of that flow. That's often,
yes,
the easier readings are the ones where I am so separate from what's just coming through, and I've allowed myself to make a fool of myself, be completely wrong, and in that, some of the most beautiful readings occur. So yeah, and we have that ability ourselves when we're in our own communication. That's the thing about it. That was actually, I think, one of the messages coming through for all of us as I was sitting before I connected here, is that we all have these abilities. And the communication, yes, it takes participation. And they're reminding me of this experience I was having. And because I've done a lot of things, and I've done extensive travel and classes and you name it. And in it, I was starting to kind of gauge what was a sign for me, or what my experiences were, that this one was a 7 out of 10 and this was a 12 out of 10. And in that, once again, I feel like I'm losing my train of thought. It's like I'm listening and they're taking me somewhere with this.
right.
There was a
We have
point, and
plenty
I
of
think
that.
with that, where were you taking me? Just being in that communication. Yeah, if it comes
Yeah.
back to me, I'll share it, and if it doesn't, then there you
Well,
go.
we were just talking about how we need to get out of our own way, how we need to
Mm,
get, we make it so much harder than it actually is, and I bet, I mean, Kevin, I'm sure you learned so much from the classes you took and all, but I bet you've learned more as a reader, just reading and
totally.
having to read all the time, every day. I always say, like, and classes, we teach classes, so they're wonderful. Classes are wonderful. Um, but when you start to practice and just put yourself out there repeatedly, that is when not only do you get so much better, but you learn so much. It's the difference between taking the driver's test and actually driving, being a driver. When you take the test, it's limited, but when you go out and drive, that's when you learn. That's when all of the problems come up, for all the everything, every scenario you never thought of comes up, and you navigate it, and that's how you learn so much.
Well said.
Yeah.
Oh, Donald, Allen, thank you both for being so kind. You as well. I sense that I am at the end of a major life cycle. Any ideas about what is next for me? Interesting. Let's see. I'm liking these cards.
So, Donnell, what I'm getting is that I feel like you're okay. Say this. So you're feeling like you're at the end of a major life cycle. What I'm getting is that something new is starting, and that uh, you need to start looking for signs and messages. I feel like you're trying to be communicated with. So I'm wondering if you might see numbers or things like that, because I keep seeing numbers. So I don't know if that's a thing with you, but if it's not, you may start to see like sequences of numbers, because I feel like, yeah, you're going into uh I feel like they're trying to like give you um the next new beginning, basically. But I feel like you're not. Start paying attention. I feel like you're going to start getting hints of what's next. So just yeah, be present, and be be in the moment, and also be aware of messages and signs that are going to be coming. I feel like that's already started though. It's so weird. I feel like it's already started. So pay attention. Pay attention.
It's interesting as you're saying the numbers. I looked into the chat, and it's kind of unrelated but related. And Pamela was in her post, it said 11 11 22, and then I looked up and it was like 09 and then 399. It was just like you were saying about the numbers, watch for the numbers, and it was like it was
And
really
I don't think, and I think, and numbers can usually, when uh, numbers can mean lots of different things. There could be angel numbers and different, things that you associate with numbers. But I feel like in this case, I feel like the numbers are like, pay attention. What's going on right now? What just happened? It's like that. And I feel like these, you're trying to be reached out to let you know what the next chapter is. Clearly, I feel like it's something spiritual that's going to be going on next, but I feel like be alert, be very alert right now.
I love
Sorry,
it.
Kevin, go ahead.
No, it's all good. I pulled a few cards, and the first one was the Dust Devil, and that just feels like you're so clear in the recognition of kind of moving out of that kind of old space and that old energy. And so what's kind of coming forward is just the acknowledgement of your patience around it. And so that really took something. And so Spirit's acknowledging you for that. And what's coming through is and I love these cards, it's I was hearing Kim's being in the joy, being in the peace, and like finding your passion. And that's all about the play. So in this, it feels like this unfoldment of this newness, this new beginning of you being in your passion. And that can be really playful. It brings me back to that, the innocence of us as children. And in it, we just experience things in a very different way through a very different lens. That's the kind of energy that's being brought forward for you in this. So it feels really good. And the ripple effect of that is contagious. So who you're in that demonstration for, I see children around you. So in that's really beautiful in these times. So Danelle, that's a really nice message.
Yeah.
Spirit is so good.
Yeah. Congratulations. That's awesome to be in a new cycle, end of a major cycle into a new one. That's great.
It's so good. And see, it's 11:11 where Patricia is, as we were talking about those 11s. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, y'all. This is for each and every one of us, all 385 of us, that just being in here and receiving this, Spirit hears everything, and they're in participation, and
Yes.
we get to choose whether we receive that or not. So beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful. All right, here we are. This one, G Kim. G Kim? I think that's it.
That's right.
Hi, Kevin and Kim. Any message from Spirit for me? Yes. Yes, indeed.
So I'm getting, so it's interesting. I'm getting the first thing that I feel like Spirit wants you to know, or your guides want you to know, is that they're very proud of you. You've weathered a lot of things, a lot of difficult things in your life. I mean, we all have things that we go through, but not all of us handle it so great. So not all of us handle it everything so well, but I feel like your guides are kind of giving you a pat on the back for really doing the best that you can. And I'm also getting to, and it's weird because at the same time, I feel like they want to give you permission to kind of follow your heart, follow your bliss, do the things that bring you joy, those kinds of messages. I feel like that's where a lot of new exciting things will be found. So yeah, follow it. To me, it just feels like kind of follow follow your heart. I feel like sometimes that's not always the case. So that's what I'm getting. But I feel like they wanted to start with a really positive. It's like we're really proud of you. You've done a really good job. And now kind of go forward and really trust those instincts and that what your heart says and go forward. So what are you getting, Kevin?
Along those same lines, I think I'm echoing you all night, but it's the gratitude. And to me, that's that deep reverence from Spirit in gratitude of exactly just where you're at in your accomplishment. And then I pulled two of the, I'm going to call them Raven cards, but the Crow cards, and it's acknowledging your own gifts. The gifts came up again. So that's really interesting. And then this part about your memory. And so that's standing out a little bit more about, and I think this plays off of what Kim was feeling around your heart, in that if you spend too much time in the memory of things, so the past, it's taking you out of this present moment. And that's actually, they're saying, where the gift is. So just really be in that presence, and in your body, and less in the thoughts about how it could have or should have and all of that. Just letting that go. Yes, you can hear it and acknowledge it, but releasing it is what they're saying. So yeah, that feels really good. G Kim. I love it. And I love that
Nice.
name.
I do
So
too. So happy.
yeah, we have time for maybe one more, and then I do that all
A
the time. Okay.
card.
Susan Foons. A card, please. Well, you know you're getting a crow card.
So you know what?
Yeah.
Kevin, I never do this, but I'm going to pull out my surrender cards and I'm going to pull a card too. Isn't that amazing? I can't believe it. This is my favorite card deck, and it's like the crow cards. It's kind of scary. They're so accurate, and it's kind of freaky. But so I'm going to pull a surrender card for Susan.
Can we add a layer to this that we make it for the collective?
Yes.
Perfect. So
Absolutely.
Susan, this is for you and whoever else this resonates with. Spirit, what do you want for the collective? Oh, that's interesting.
Okay, so again, they're scary. So the first one I pulled is for Susan, for sure, and maybe she can validate this. But the second one is definitely for the collective. So, the one I pulled for Susan is surrender stubbornness. You're too stubborn, Susan. If you're tensing up or taking a rigid stance about something, gently observe yourself and become more yielding. This will help you communicate more lovingly with others and with yourself. And then for the collective, I got surrender to spirit. Once you've done everything you can to achieve a goal, turn the situation over to the divine and let spirit work its magic for you. So that's for and look at that picture. Isn't that pretty?
Oh, it's stunning.
I love these cards. They're beautiful. And then here's the stubbornness
it almost
one.
looks like a photograph.
This one?
Yeah.
Isn't that pretty? Yeah, I love these cards. They're beautiful. But so there you go.
Susan, it's interesting. So I'm curious how you would receive this, but it's the lost compass, and it's about getting back kind of like into integrity. And here's the thing about integrity is that none of us are in the fullness of integrity. It's almost humanly impossible to be in that all the time, in this state of full integrity. So that's what they're saying first. But in it, we can, again, be in the choice of how we are integral. And so Spirit's just acknowledging that for you, and maybe it's also for collective in this moment, that we are our own compass. So they're talking about bravery, and in things like the bravery and the courage, again, stripped down, those are about choices. So it just feels really supportive. This might go into the collective, the 22, which is interesting, and it's the grief card. And we collectively have gone through this grieving, and a lot of us are still there in that. And through the grieving process, it takes us deep into the emotion that we actually came here to be a part of. And so in that, the gift of it comes. I don't know why this card is out, but it's the voyage card. I didn't pull that card, but in that kind of voyage of life, that we can look back sometimes and go, oh my gosh, in those those hardest moments came the greatest gifts. So I think the community and gathering together feels really important in these concerning times. So that feels really good.
Yeah. What was that first card you had up? Can you show that one again? The first one? Integrity. Because I thought that's interesting, because a lot of our conversation about today was about that integrity and being true to yourself and who you want to be, and what you want to show up in this world, and the you want to be in this world. And I think it takes a lot of integrity. I mean, I think that's a good, it takes being honest with yourself, with the people around you, about who you are and what you're about. It takes courage too.
I love that. And they showed me you back in that mirror, Kim, when you were sharing about that trust and your trust in your guides and spirit, and then it coming back to us where we can have that also. So it's like, we have to be in participation, and that's an invitation that we all get multiple times a day. And perhaps we just needed that reminder today. So what a beautiful message.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful how they weave those through the conversation. Speaking about spirit guides, if I could just mention one of the things that we have going on, Jason and I, who has been a guest, is the QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis therapist. We are doing.
I love quantum healing. Yeah,
it's
so
wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah,
and so we're doing a workshop on this Sunday from 12 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time till 2 o'clock. So 2 hour on meeting or reconnecting with your spirit guides. So how fitting. So if any of you feel called, I did put the registration link in the description box. So it's a lot of fun, and we're changing it up a little bit, where I will be participating through open mediumship and psychic kind of hits that I get. So it'll be a little bit, we're calling it 2.0 because it's the second time that we're running the series. So if you feel called, come check that out. It's a good time. So
that sounds amazing.
Thank you for being here. This was wonderful. Thank you for the conversation and doing some personal questions and pulling a card. I mean, we got it all.
Not something I do very often, so it was
so wonderful. Awesome. All right. So if you haven't subscribed to Kim's channel, Intuitive View, go check it out, subscribe, leave a comment, all of that fun stuff. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
We will see you again. Bye for now.